I try to write that sexual orientation and identity are important, but it's also in my stories not the main thing. I want to promote also humanity and just keep it. And, with everything that's going on now, I think that it's important with the climate that we're in now to not back down, keep our stories out there. People need us because I'm not a conventional writer at all. Here's a banana, use it in your story.
When I was 5, I lived with my mother and father and older brother.
At least I could draw, I told myself.
It was just me, my cats, and my imagination.
Created protective cover, just enough where he could keep his underwear on.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Another Words podcast. I'm Pam Ernest, and these are my co-hosts, Jan Thorpe, Val Gale, and Karen Sketch. And our guest tonight is our very own Val Gale. Val was born and raised in Des Moines, Iowa. He served in the U.S. Army from 1991 to 1996, being stationed in New York and Seoul, Korea. He completed a BA in 1999 from Grandview University in Des Moines after his honorable discharge. He identifies as a trans man. Val focuses full-time on his writing since an industrial accident amputated his hand and ended his work in a tire facility, creating an opportunity to pursue his lifelong passion for creative fiction. His first novel, Different, a semi-autobiographical YA novel about a trans teen, was published in 2017. He recently completed Hunter, an LGBTQ novel telling the story of post-transition trans relationships. He's completed his next novel, Wild Dandelion, an LGBTQ adult fiction romance thriller, and Karen and Jan are beta readers. Val is currently working on an LGBTQ suspense novel and is experimenting with short fiction. So, yay. Thank you for doing this tonight, Val.
Thanks, Pam.
You're welcome. I know you were recently at the Trans Festival. Was it in Des Moines?
It was, and it was this past Saturday, March 29th.
How was that?
Oh, my goodness. I woke up. I'm the type of person, at my job for 17 years before I lost my hand, 6 p.m. I had to be there. Here's me walking in the door, almost 6, boom. That's how I did it for 17 years because I hated the place. But so what I mean is that morning I was stepping on cats, trying to get coffee, trying to get my stuff in the truck. I was running behind, but you know what? Showing up is half the battle. I really believe in anything that you do. So I made it there right on time. And I shared a room with 2 other authors, one trans man, Matthew Corey, who writes young adult trans novels. Hopefully we can have Matthew on our show soon. He's fantastic.
That'd be great.
Out of the Blue Comes Green, I think is the name of his novel. I'm going to scoot off for a second. Sorry, guys, because I think he's wonderful. Out of the Blue Comes Green had a great cover. And it's about a young teen who comes out during a talent show contest.
Oh, wow.
And I could really resonate with that. And I talked to him because I wanted to be a rock star when I was young. So I had a really good time with him. There was also another author, lesbian author, LT Thompson. She writes middle grade and young adult novels. And she has a book coming out, Devils Like Us. I don't know if you can see any of that. Devils Like Us.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I love the title. Devils Like Us.
Yeah. And she has 2 out, The Best Liars in Riverview and The House That Whispers.
Great.
So, really, it's about community. And so it was really wonderful to be there with other LGBTQ authors. 1,500 people showed up when I started 6 years ago. There was only 100 people that came, 5. And you have a lot of allies that come in as well. And I love our allies. That come in and support, that have children or brothers and sisters or spouses or, whatever, that are under the LGBTQ umbrella. And, with everything that's going on now, I think that it's important with the climate that we're in now to not back down, keep our stories out there. People need us. For example, I had this young trans girl come up to me and was like, I'm so sorry that my mother misgendered you last year. And she was shaking. Mm-hmm. And I said, come over here and talk to me. And she came over and she talked to me. And I said, honey, it's okay. I said, it's okay. Yeah. She goes, well, she does that all the time to me. And I said, well, So you have to understand us older people, we were raised a little bit different, at least she's trying, and I just couldn't imagine her having to carry that for a year to wait to tell me till the next year, And so what I mean by that is, again, I talked to like 3 other trans boys, young men that were probably 18 to 25. And, I could see the relief in their face that there was somebody that understood their story and somebody that lived it and survived, you know. And, they didn't have $20 to buy the book and I didn't care. I was giving books away to the young people,
Yeah, great, good.
Because it's not about money for me, it's about inspiring and keeping these people alive.
Right.
And to pave the way for behind me as an LGBTQ trailblazer, I'd like to say that I want to become, and, Marsha P. Johnson, Harvey Milk, all those people that gave their lives for what they believed in and tried to fight the hatred and the prejudice and just trying to live an authentic life, So I believe that nobody can tell us how to live what our authenticity is. Nobody can tell you that.
No.
So
nobody
You're the
can
only
tell
one that
you
knows.
that. But Val, you're an inspiration to these young people, and it's wonderful. And I wish there was some way, you could set up a way that they can be in contact with you instead of having to wait to see you once a year at the festival. But, if there were something you could do, because I bet you would get a lot of young people reaching out.
Well, there's this one kid named Hunter. I said, he come up to me and he goes, oh my gosh. And he goes, your book's named Hunter? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's my, chosen name.
Wow.
And I said, well, I'm going to give you a book for free, so because his name was Hunter, I just thought that was really cool.
Must have been so excited.
Yeah. And, and he did request me on Facebook. So
good.
And he's 18,
Yeah.
And
well,
there was
Hunter's a hero,
Well, yes, we're all so riddled with, neuroses and, trauma, and especially, then I don't want to take away from anything from heterosexual children or anything like that. We're all riddled with trauma, and
absolutely.
But I think that the LGBT community, I kind of lived covertly my whole life, in the sense that, I had the traditional parents, I had all that, and, but I still lived my truth. And my parents, even though they didn't necessarily agree with it or more understand it, they just let me be, and
you were so lucky that
I was so lucky.
You were.
And I know that I was lucky.
Yeah.
So that's why I do what I do, because some kids are not lucky.
Right.
Yeah.
Like B. Arthur, before she passed away, and she was a big advocate for the LGBTQ community. And she left, and I loved Dorothy and Golden Girls. She was my favorite character.
She's the best.
A hot mess. I loved her. She donated a lot of money to LGBTQ shelters in New York City for trans and, gay people to have a place to go, because a lot of them, their parents kick them out.
Yeah.
And I was lucky that I did not have to go through that.
Yeah, you were.
Mm-hmm. Even though, like I said, they didn't understand it, and sometimes I know they were embarrassed and all that, they still tried to let me be who I was becoming. And, I had to live covertly in the military, don't ask, don't tell. And it's hard for me to live covertly when I breathe who I am. It's just, but I did it for safety reasons as a young soldier in the early 90s. With Bill Clinton and don't ask, don't tell, and all of that, because you could get discharged dishonorably and ruin your, because it follows you.
Yeah.
That DD 214 follows you. So that's why I do what I do. I just want to inspire people, and adults too, anybody, straight people, I don't care. Anybody that's gone through addiction, trauma, sexual trauma, rape, all of that stuff. Like I said, drug addiction, alcoholism, not feeling like you fit in, not, wanting to kill yourself, and I was lucky. Like I said, my parents welcomed me. Music was my first love, music and writing. And those things saved me. And I feel that it's important for young kids to have that. All the art should remain in the schools. If I ever want a bunch of money, I would donate to that. I think it's important to have, that stuff, because that's,
Yeah.
some kids, that's all they have.
Yeah.
Is the public school system, or any school system that allows, you to explore yourself through the arts, private, public, whatever, doesn't matter. But I really am more for the public school kids, because I was brought up, just say my parents struggled financially. I'm just saying not to take anything away from, children's, that the parents that have money, because sometimes they're in worse shape.
Yeah, no,
That's no joke.
true. But still, I mean, you in particular, because of who you are, and you're a trans man, you have that, you have that expertise and that background that knows, how to talk to these young people, and they need you. And and again, I've read several of your books, and I've read Wild Dandelion, even though I'm reading it again as your beta reader, but I'm always impressed with how much you do understand this underground.
It is an underground, like I said, living
World.
covertly. It was
You
cool. It was
do.
cool.
You-
It was cool, to be hip, to be square. We definitely weren't square. It was I was sneaking into bars when I was 18, 19 years old,
Yeah.
and there's good and bad things with that, but because I was so in love with the subculture, and I was so in love with people dressing up and performing, and because like I said, I wanted to be a rock star when I was young, and I just
but
loved
I've also, you were able to that scene, several chapters, this in Wild Dandelion, when you are in the cult world of, these are very dark people, violent people, and kid trafficking going on, and you were able to bring the reader into that in a way that, I mean, it's shocking, it's scary, but you able to evoke that world, and we know it's out there.
Well, I think, and people and young people that are kicked out of their houses, regardless of their
Where are they
sexual
going to go? They're going to
orientation,
wind up in these
they're going to wind up.
these cults. Yeah.
I try to write that sexual orientation and identity are important, but it's also, in my stories, not the main thing. I want to promote also humanity and just people. Those things are subdivisions of people.
Right. Yeah.
We are all human beings on this earth, just trying to find our truth.
Yeah.
Okay. And those are just subdivisions of who I am. I used to feel like I was a hypocrite because I never had surgeries done. And if there is any, and there is prejudice in the LGBTQ community as well. Some of the older, like people my age and older, are like, why didn't you ever have any surgeries? Why? Right. Because that's not where I found my truth. If I feel that the bus has sailed for me with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Having breast cancer, they wouldn't take them. So if you got breast cancer and they're not going to, you know what I'm thinking?
I know.
I'm stuck with these till the grave,
so funny. Oh my God.
I know.
It was because of the radiation. They didn't want to do it. There's reasons why they didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But, so I didn't have to change my body. I feel like it on the inside, and it's so much inherently a part of me that I didn't feel the need to do that. Now, if I was a young person nowadays, I probably would have done a lot of the stuff that they're doing now, why people have health care. It's going, So, and the trans and the military and all that, I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here, but, there was a video I sent Jan about this cis white male. I loved it. Up there bashing, about not letting trans people serve.
That was fantastic. I gotta say, I teared up through the whole thing. It was great.
I'll send it to you guys. But he was up there with his black brother and sisters in arms, and everybody of different economical backgrounds and sexual preferences and education levels and why they went into the military. They all had that one thing, that brother and sisterhood. And that's what it's about.
Sure,
it's not about somebody. There's subdivisions of who they are, or who they sleep with, or a lot of these people don't even understand that gender and identity are two different. Sexual orientation and identity are two different freaking things.
Absolutely, they are.
Who you are attracted to and how you see yourself are two different things.
Right.
they get that mixed up. A lot of the Republicans and a lot of these,
yes.
red states is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
Get it confused. Who cares who's going to the bathroom and where? And I guarantee that they've been doing it. Some of these people, there was this one trans woman, I watched this video, I'll send that to you too. She was great. She goes, I'm a 62-year-old trans woman. And she goes, I've been using women's bathrooms since 1978.
Yeah, they don't know. They don't know.
I've been in women's dressing rooms since 1978. And that's really the truth of it.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, why, I just don't understand the reasoning behind them thinking that someone would become trans so they could go into a woman's bathroom
God,
just to gawk or whatever.
White heterosexual
That makes
males.
no sense.
Look at the statistics. It's white heterosexual males. I'm not saying there aren't gay people.
100%. Yes.
There's all kinds of people that are predatory and that are, pedophiles. I'm just saying. But the majority are 90% white heterosexual males that are, teachers or in the clergy or they have access to children. Hello.
Yeah. That's exactly it right there.
So Sinead O'Connor in the early 90s, I mean, she was way ahead of her time when she, it ruined her career.
It did.
When she ripped the picture of the Pope up on Saturday night.
I was watching that when that happened, and I remember the shock watching it, going, "Whoa, what did she just do?"
Because she knew the truth behind it. She
knew the truth, and I didn't understand it at the time, but I found out shortly after what.
Did you see the? I forget it won an Academy Award. The movie about the Pope, the papacy.
Yes.
Have you watched it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. This is giving it away, but I'm going to say it anyway. The person they finally nominate turns out to be a trans man.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome.
So, and you don't know that until the very end. So I've just given it away to you, but I think it's still worth watching because the way it plays out. And let me tell you, it is quite something. And Val, it's exactly what you're talking about, because in the end, they choose this person. Think, of course, he's always been a man. They assume that. And then at the end, he says, I'm trans. And they're
what's the name of the movie again? I'm sorry. I'm writing it down.
I wish it's okay. It's about
I did watch that. Yes, it's good.
You watch it. Karen, do you remember the name?
It's with
I know. Isn't it awful with the name?
Is the trans man's name Scott?
Is it Conclave? Is that the
Conclave?
That's
it.
Conclave.
Conclave. Watch it. I'll watch it again too because it's really good.
Is it on Netflix?
It may be now. It may be on Netflix or
Hulu or something.
Yeah, one of them. Watch it. It's fascinating.
It's not Ralph Fiennes, is it? I was.
Yes.
Is that who it is? Yes. The guy that played Voldemort.
Yes.
I remember seeing that.
Have you seen the Danish girl? The Danish girl?
Who?
The Danish girl.
Is he the Danish girl?
No, have you seen the Danish girl?
Have I seen them? No, I haven't.
Fantastic.
Okay, I'll watch that.
Yeah, trans woman. It's about a trans woman. Van. When it was just starting to peak, where trans characters were getting played by trans characters. Fantastic, you guys! I'm telling you.
Okay.
Okay, so Eddie Redmayne's in that.
I love him.
So
he plays
good.
Some really good characters.
But yeah, that's like, why I just want to make kids feel. When I was growing up, we didn't have any of that stuff, and so the way to survive was to live covertly, and that's what I did. I still wanted to have my truth, so people who were close to me, of course, knew, and of course, sexual partners know, and people like that. But like living out in the world, I had to live a little covertly, and I could get away with it honestly. And I'm glad we're talking about this.
I bet you could,
because of my body, because I have a feminine body, and so I could live a little bit different.
Under the radar,
kind of under the radar. And I got away with a little bit more. Now, my best friend who is deceased now, one of my best friends, Carl Zitzow, who's a gay man that I served with in the Army, and he was the 6'2", 190 pound. He was a pretty big guy, but when he talked, his voice was very feminine, and he would get harassed. And
Mhm.
I used to tell him, I'm like, Carl, don't talk. He said, I have to tell him don't talk because we're gonna get, and they were, the soldiers were meaner, of course, to gay men than they were somebody like me.
I'm sure.
And I did get away with a little bit more because of the heterosexual perception of women together is hot. I'm like, first of all, I'm not but I'm not a woman. Okay. So, so you're not going to be in my bedroom anywhere near, but it's the idea, of two women together that it's okay.
Right.
See where that stigma comes from and how it's allowed, then when it's to gratify the norm.
Yeah.
So really this is where we live, and this is how we've always lived. We know this, being over 50, all of us, we know this.
Yeah.
So, but it's really, really wonderful to see these young people grappling with them authentic selves, and then see somebody that's lived it, and they come up and I love it. They got some of them, I was like that too, have like chains and piercings.
Well, sure.
Some of them are really conservative. It's so great. And I get to meet all these different types of trans people.
Yeah.
And they told me, thank you so much. And I said, representation is important.
It is. And you've got these kids that up until the last few months, to be honest, it's been a relatively, I wouldn't say safe world.
They're scared.
Safer world. They're scared because
now they're scared.
Now the direction that things are going. And for you to be there and be like, you've lived through it. And then
you can do this. You can do this.
You can absolutely do this. You've lived through it. You've made it through a little bit easier times too. And if we hit hard times again, it's doable.
I know how to navigate it. And I would definitely have, you create your own community and welcome people into your fold. And, what it boils down to is they just want to be seen. It's so simple.
Yeah.
It's so freaking simple that it baffles me that people don't understand that. Yeah. Somebody just wants to feel seen.
And that, in your book, I have a copy of your book, Hunter, here, and your dedication that you have in it. I love it because it says, to all the misfits and tortured souls, I see you. Without your voice, this would not be possible. May you find the recognition and comfort in my pages. Love that.
I love that too.
That's very nice. To write that. It really, really did, because I'm like, who do I want to dedicate this to? People a lot of times do your family, and I just want to dedicate it to the people that don't feel seen.
It's beautiful the way that you wrote that. Absolutely. Very touching. I mean, when I first opened it up and read that, I can't remember if I texted you right then and was like, dude, that's so perfect, But it is.
When people don't feel seen, because then all the other sub crap comes in, right? Mental illness, addiction,
I know,
depression, anxiety, all that stuff can be.
If you can't be your authentic self, it causes so many, like you're saying, other problems.
You internalize.
And for them to know that they are seen is huge.
Yeah,
absolutely. And what I do love about the atmosphere of the young people growing up now, they are so welcoming. Like I said, I still have people in my community, my age, why are you treated? That still don't accept me because I didn't do all the surgeries. I said, I don't need to have surgery to know who I am.
No, you don't. But
and then they like, well, then they, it's really kind of scary, because it's like, this is not what I'm about.
And they're all judgy, and it's like, hey.
It's like, I welcome people that have had, that's why I have characters that have had surgery and that have not had surgery.
Yeah,
there's a reason for that. It's strategically for a reason, because not everybody can afford all that, and there are some people that can't have stuff like that done for many reasons. And if you're going to look at it from a sexual standpoint, sometimes you can't perform because you're messing with your biological stuff. There's many reasons, but
it's
I've always
complicated. The surgery stuff is very complicated.
And especially female to male is extremely complicated, more than male to female.
Yeah. Yes, I'm sure.
And so, yeah, I just, I think things happen for a reason. I still would be at that factory making tires, being miserable. And I think that my parents said nope, because they always knew I was creative and I wanted to give back to the world. I want to be a student, a teacher of life. A lot of people, I didn't do well. I consider myself, intelligent, try to be intelligent, but I didn't do well in school. I did, but I didn't, with my dyslexia and having to worry about safety around other people.
Well, I'm just going to say something about education in general. It isn't, it's tailored as one size fits all. And of course, those
It's
of
not.
us who didn't do very well in school, I did well enough and went to good schools when you
Mhm,
could. But
mhm.
that's not where I learned anything, frankly. I learned a little bit enough, but that's not, and that is most people's story.
It's gotten worse now too, because it's more about
Worse now.
making grades, or not grades. It's more
That's
about test scores
test
than
scores
anything.
and cheating is rampant
Yeah.
now.
I did well on like homework and project assignments, and I
Yeah.
was very knowledgeable. I have a photographic memory, but for some reason, test when it wasn't photographic memorization, I could write essays and I could do, multiple choice by
Yeah.
knowing information. But my brain just did not work that way. So you learn how to
Yeah.
work with what you have and you make it work. And being a writer and an artist, you guys all know this. So many failures, and I don't even like calling them failures. So many mistakes that I've made have created me into the writer that I am now. And I can continue honing my craft and building and learning.
Yeah.
So different was a baseline, not my best work, but you know what? I chose not to redo it for a reason.
No,
Because
I agree. They and again, writing is all about just hanging in there, and we get better.
practice,
The more you write, the better you get. And I don't know about you, I just can't go back and redo.
I can't.
Well,
I
and
just, I'll do it
you're
up
but
to
you're but different. It's
yeah.
I mean, there's value in it, Val.
Thank you.
Absolute value in it. And I read it. I got it right after you published it, I think, in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a copy of it in our library too, and it's been there, and it has checked out. So it's not just sitting there gathering dust. It's gone out.
I love that. And to walk into a library, and of course talk about librarians, the gatekeepers of, self-knowledge and self-teaching yourself and self-education. It's so important. That's where I would escape to as a young teenager. I would go to libraries and try to find anything, a word even. I would look up all kinds of stuff, like trans man or LGBTQ writing, and Leslie Finnenberg was one of the first trans men in Stone Butch Blues, won the Lambda in '94. And I submit to the Lambda, which that's really a high bar, but I still do it anyway. Because it doesn't bother me to be told no, because as a writer, you get told no a lot.
A lot.
So I can deal with it. It just makes me want to try harder,
Good.
You only need to be told yes once. That's all it takes.
Exactly. And she was, excuse me, sorry, but I sometimes mess up my pronouns as well. Excuse me. He, born in 1949, just post World War II, having, being Polish and trans. And I mean, it just was ridiculous, the stuff that he had to go through to survive, that he actually transitioned to survive.
Yeah.
At that time, and worked in a factory as a man.
A lot of people did.
Interesting story. And he ended up dying of Lyme's disease of all things. But every year, a Stone Butch Blues is just like the Bible, so to speak, for trans people. And like Marsha P. Johnson and Harvey Milk, like again, it's going on here, where I live, people being taken off protected classes, what Harvey Milk was fighting for, in California. Housing, insurance, jobs, it's going to affect everything. And I just don't understand how people can't see the domino effect and what's going to happen. It's a domino effect.
Yeah, it is.
I've never understood of what is the big deal about same-sex marriage, to have them on their insurance. Why is it such a crime to want this person to have insurance? That's all they need is assistance with medical. It's not. I don't know why. I don't understand. I just don't get it.
I think people, it's kind of the religion stuff.
Unfortunately,
it's the Bible says, and you can find anything you want in the Bible.
Oh yeah,
say whatever you want.
It's been read more than any other book, and this is what I've told people too, that conservatives or even people that free-minded thinkers. I love talking to everybody, I really do, until they become disrespectful, and then I'll listen, and then I'll walk away. It's like I'm spiritual, and I've always been a spiritual person, and I know there's something more than me here. It'd be arrogant to think we're the only.
Yes, it would. It would.
And there's a lot of, and I went to Catholic schools, so I was tortured there too. So, the rhetoric, I don't necessarily have a problem with the rhetoric. I have a problem with how it's used to marginalize people.
Yes.
To marginalize people. That's what I have a problem with. Not the rhetoric. It's how it's used.
Yeah. Well, you're right. And, and this idea that I'm going to heaven and you're going to hell unless you believe what I believe. Well, that doesn't work. As
they're sitting over here, on their 10th marriage. Well, I'm sorry, my first marriage upsets your 10th. What is it? What is it? You know what I'm trying to say? Sanctity
of marriage.
Thank you. Of your 10th marriage to my first. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
But that's why I do what I do. And so should we talk about some of my slides and maybe read a piece from Hunter?
Absolutely. We can do that. Let me pull up your slides.
And writers, Jan and Pam, and you guys know as artists, we observe the world around us. We really do. That's what we do.
Yeah.
We're just observers writing what we see.
Mm-hmm. Oh, Val, I've never seen the cover of Different. Oh,
actually, this woman actually, Karen, I want you to do all mine from here forward. But this woman, I found this woman, and she was actually regionally priced, not the Hunter, but I mean, the lady that did Different. She lived in Tucson, Arizona, and I found her, and she was very reasonably priced, and I think she did a fantastic job for what I needed done at the time.
It's right.
Yeah, and I need to switch my name on there too because I was still trying to live covertly and protect a little bit.
Yeah, well, you can change that easily.
I'm going to change that on there because now I don't care. So I have to live my truth for other people to live theirs. And so I'll change my name on there. But so Different is about Randy, who is a trans boy, who is in love with his best friend, Tracy. And Tracy's a cheerleader and has the perfect boyfriend. Of course she does, with brown eyes and blonde hair and muscles. And Randy, as you can tell, would hate Joe. And it kind of navigates through Randy learning to be comfortable in his own skin, falling in love with Tracy and kind of navigating through that. And Randy's best friend is Rick, a gay boy in high school with some mental health issues and stuff. And so it touches on some triggers, incest, suicide attempt, bullying, things like that a young person would go through in high school. But again, it's about hope. All my books deal with hope. And I always want to have a happy ending because I feel like you can overcome trauma and you can heal and you can become the best version of yourself and live your most authentic life by healing. Mm-hmm. So these difficult things have to be talked about, and I want to talk about them, So that's what Different is about. And Hunter is about Hunter post-bottom surgery, who falls in love with his nurse, Kate. And they battle with tumultuous waters of love and addiction, living their authentic lives, confronting their traumatic past, so they can be vulnerable enough to fall in love with each other and live their authentic lives. So there's triggers in that too, of course, incest, addiction, I want to say self-harm. That might be my next one. But I deal with all of really hard issues that people,
You weave it all in. You weave it all in.
I weave it all in because that's what real people live and think.
Yeah.
And so many authors don't keep that in there, and it just makes your characters even more authentic, more true, more real, more gritty.
Well, that's why Hunter wasn't published by I was almost picked up in 2022 with Wild Rose Press, and they wanted me to take out some of the incest, and I had a scene in there with an animal cruelty, which you guys all know I love animals. I was just trying to show the brutality of how people can be. And it was actually a true event that happened to my younger self. It actually happened to me. And they wanted me to take that out, and I wouldn't do it. And so that's what happened.
Good. Because it's such an integral part. It is. And, again, I wish writers could be protected from that, from publishers wanting us to take out sensitive material, because so often that material is part and parcel of the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
and people have gone through this, and I've gone through that stuff as well. So, so you guys can tell me what, anything that you thought that stood out with Hunter, anything that people might like to know, or anything from.
Well, I read Hunter, and I think you did a great job. It's the love affair between Hunter and what's her name?
Kate.
It's very nuanced, and you do a great job of that, because it's really, you're right there in the sort of push-pull of it. And, they're trying both are so eager and wanting, and yet they're protective each in their own way.
Both of them are flawed.
And so you do a great job of that.
Thank you.
And again, in the end, which is, the ending comes out right. We know as the reader, these two have a chance, but they went through a lot to get to that point where they have a real chance. But you don't make it happy walking off into the sunset.
No.
Yeah, it's real.
You have to work for what you want. And what I want to do with these two people, I love that you said that, the nuances, 100%, it's about, to become your authentic self, you have to become vulnerable. And sometimes it's really, really hard for people that have experienced trauma to trust, to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so what I try to interweave in there is that this fight for this authenticity and for this love, but at the same time, they're scared because they have to face their traumas and their vulnerability, because that's the only way.
Well, of course it is. And they're scared for good reason.
Right.
You make that clear. That's what I mean by you make that clear too. And I think as the reader, we're always rooting for them, but you don't know, which is good. How they might not make it.
No.
And that is so realistic.
Yes. Because their defense mechanisms come up when you have a person that has experienced trauma. I've gone 12 years of therapy, Janet, you guys all know this, and I love my therapist. Yeah. When you've gone through trauma, you inadvertently go back to defense mechanisms. And so before you want to reveal yourself, you're testing the waters, you're sticking your toe in. Is it safe for me to reveal myself?
Right.
Yeah. Are they going to abandon me? Are they going to not like the bad parts of me?
Right.
And what's beautiful about it is, for you to live your authentic life, your bad parts have to come with you too.
Yeah.
They have to come with you too. Yeah. So addiction, both characters struggle with addiction.
Yeah.
Both, both have had, sexual trauma. They're both scared to death to open up. They're both, I don't want to give away too much, but they both, Hunter's trans, and so you have that as well. But he also passes. There's, and that's funny too. People that actually pass don't get as much. They don't get clocked. It's called. I don't get clocked anymore. I love that. It's a slang word for trans people. It's like, I don't get clocked anymore. basically meaning that they can pass as the gender that they have chosen for themselves, and nobody questions it, you know.
Yeah.
So Hunter, doesn't get clocked like that, as Bo would in Wild Dandelion, which we'll talk about that too,
Yeah.
So
I got a couple of passages. Are you good with me reading them?
absolutely.
Okay. So the first one, and when I read through this, you know me, I have sticky notes everywhere.
Me too. That's how I do it.
And I had written on here what a great paragraph this was, and it is. It says, Hunter sipped his hot coffee slowly. Everyone abandoned him, but he was still here. Then the words came exploding off his fingers onto the pages. The distraction was calming, comforting, passing his emotions onto his characters. He lived covertly in each one. They represented a time in his life when people and encounters failed him. They breathed because he survived. I love that.
Nice.
Very nice. Wow. And then a really short one that I like too. Those who genuinely want to be on our world will try. It's that simple.
It is that simple.
Mm-hmm.
It is that simple. If somebody wants to be with you and just an understanding, and this is just in all aspects of life, work, relationships, partnerships, friendships, they will be there. You won't have to question if they want to be there. They will be there. They will make the time, and that's another thing I think that young people, and me included and everybody else, if somebody doesn't want to be there, they're not going to be. You will know. Yeah. You will know if somebody wants to be with you.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah. True.
You will.
So, yeah.
And then I think probably my favorite paragraph out of the entire book. It says, all these years of surgeries and hormones, praying for peace and contemplating suicide, the isolation and sneers from the outside world. Now I can finally tell that little girl by the oak tree bargaining with God to become a boy, Lisa, you are whole. Wow. Love that. That is just like the most beautiful testament of, to becoming who you're meant to be,
Mm-hmm.
I just think it's great.
That's actually true. That's actually from my, I pulled that. That's mine. Mm-hmm. I actually did that. I remember walking down the alley because I was trying the alleyways, and I talk about that too. There's parts of me everywhere, and that's why there's so much truth in fiction. I remember walking down the alleyway trying to hide from the neighborhood boys because I just didn't want to deal with them. And I remember I had a crush on my sister's friend, Jackie Jacobson. And she was beautiful, and I knew she didn't see me at all. You know what I mean? Didn't see me. And why would she? She was into boys, and she had a boyfriend. I hated her boyfriend. Hated her boyfriend. Hate him. And so I did. And I remember going to the acorn tree in my backyard, sat and cried. And 14, 15 years old, but that was a pivotal moment for me. And I wouldn't take it away for anything. Because it let me know that you have to learn to rely on yourself to keep yourself safe. Yeah. And you have to, you can't, if somebody wants to be there, they'll be there. And it was just an unrealistic expectation. And I think sometimes as artists, I love potential and I love unrealistic expectations, and you get wrapped up in that. And sometimes it's just not feasible. She was 5 years older than I was. She was my sister's best friend. She had a boyfriend. I mean, I just had so many things going against me, but I didn't care. I just wanted to be with her.
Yeah.
And it's his first loves, that puppy love, the crush. But they will just crush your soul,
Oh, absolutely. You're gonna die.
Yes.
Die.
Oh, yeah. Being the brooding artist, laying in my bed for weeks at a time, listening to albums and listening to just all this. And that's just the way I am. And I still do it to this day. Music saved my life as a young person.
Yeah.
And because as a writer, for me to have it put to music, sometimes what I couldn't say, how I was feeling, music really gave me a voice. Yeah. And because of that, I've been eternally grateful ever since. I love music.
Well, and it's a safe way to talk to people, hey, check this song out,
exactly.
Kind of thing.
I used to make people that I used to date mixtapes, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it to you, but this tape will. Seriously.
Now it's a Spotify playlist, you know.
Playlist. You know, and let's talk about the short story for a moment, you know, that we're collaborating on, all of us, which we want Karen to do the cover for that as well.
We're going to keep you busy, Karen.
I know Karen is going to be busy.
That's my thing.
You know,
Yay.
kids nowadays with the digital age and how everything is now, you know, they learn differently. So I'm trying to learn how to learn stuff to reach them and to talk to them, you know, with the videos and TikToks and all this stuff. And, you know, but when we were growing up, you know, I would take, this is what I'm writing about in my short story. And I would take, you know, my old Halloween costumes, and I was always the boy character. Always.
Of course you were. I mean, Halloween's another one of those times where we get to
can covert
be yourself.
Yes. You know, and I want to get back to my niece's show real quick about how they have girls playing guys characters now. We didn't have that kind of stuff. That was no brainer. If you wasn't the blonde soprano, 105 pounds, you pretty much didn't get roles as, you know what, seriously, as a female.
Yeah.
And I didn't want those roles. I wanted to be the prince. I wanted to be the soldier. I wanted to be the cowboy.
Yeah.
So I would take, you know, my swords and get on my bike, and my bike would be my horse, and I have my cape on, and I'd have water, and I'd have my, you know, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and I'd ride. And, you know, so lucky my mom didn't know half the time where I was going. And
in those days, parents didn't.
It was
Those days are over, but
they're over.
You know,
I'm in the forest,
and no one knew where we were.
No one knew where I was at. I'm riding
until it got dark,
smoking cigarettes, and, you know, just
you know, it was very difficult learning how to smoke cigarettes with Melinda, my friend Melinda, and she wore them in her skirt.
Yes,
you know, and she'd pull them out, and
yes.
then you have to give them up. Oh God.
Drinking. I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is some of the stuff that we did, you know, and you know, and that kind of became my struggle, you know, with alcohol addiction later on. You know, it became a crutch, and you lean on it for so long, and it's something that you did, you know, just to cope, you know, and stuff. But I would ride through the forest trying to find Snow White, and I would give her a kiss, and, you know, the apple would fall out of her mouth, and we would live happily ever after, or so we thought, right? Nope. Not that easy, right? And, you know, I feel as if that creativity, that's a dying art. It's unfortunate. But that's how all my creativity started, you know, as I would act out.
Mine did too. It was all in my imagination. And when I was a kid, imagining, you know, because if you couldn't go off in your imagination, you couldn't escape, you know, the kind of reality of so many things we've been talking about. But
absolutely.
Are we the last generation to live?
I think you guys are.
Gen X? I'm Gen X, so's Pam. I think we might be the last. Are you? You're not Gen X, Karen, are you?
I just turned 65.
No, you're not. You're the one ahead of us. I think you're
a boomer, right?
What are your post-baby boomer, maybe?
I think I'm a boomer.
No, I don't think you are. You guys are Gen X, aren't you? Gen X?
No.
65 to 1980.
Okay, you're at the bottom of the boomer, I guess.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
But
I'm not even sure. I'm trying to think, and I can't remember.
I know that yeah, we're Gen X, and you're boomer, Jan, right? Right, Jan? Did you hear me?
Are you a boomer? Oh, she can't.
Me?
Shoot. Okay, well,
no, I'm older by a year.
Oh.
Okay.
A year or two. Yeah, no, okay. I am we were the great generation.
There you go.
The greatest generation. Yes, that's what I'm
yeah. I love it, right? You know, and that's what I was trying to teach some of the younger people too, to have patience with their parents and their grandparents. And this is what I told them. I'm like, if they are trying, like if they're not physically and emotionally abusive to you, I mean, seriously, if they are like trying and they're just annoying you, you're lucky.
Yeah. And they don't get that.
You have to give people grace if they're really trying to love you and try. Now, there's a difference between people just being blatantly mean. We all know that.
Because
Yeah.
I think kids need to look up to someone, you know, that has something they want, and they will, you know, they'll.
Well, I think it's seeing somebody live their truth that when you see somebody living their truth, you're like,
And that's happy.
they're like me.
And you've got teenagers too, that whole angsty thing that comes along with that, you know, hormones and just learning to fit in and trying to break free from your parents. And then you put on, you know, the trans identity on top of that. That's a lot. It's a lot, but and is it hard for them to give grace? Yeah, it is, because they're teenagers, you know, they're young adults. It's just who they are. I mean,
And by what psychological standards, they're not fit for society anyway.
no, their frontal cortex isn't completely developed, you know, until they're
not.
25,
Their brain's not developed.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, that's what I try to tell them. And you know, because for me, and see this, and I have a little different twist on this too. I want to add this while we're starting to close out the show here pretty soon. You know, there's a lot of trans actors and stuff that get really upset at heterosexual people playing gay or trans characters. And I've been asked about this, and I've been kind of shunned a little bit too, but I got big shoulders. I can take it. It doesn't bother me because I'm going to tell you my truth. I was grateful for those heterosexual actors to play those characters, to give me something to see, something to visualize, something to strive and thrive for.
Just to have the character to
have that character represented was what was I was looking at it more as, just to have that character represented, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, I'm all for, you know, LGBTQ rights, of course, but I feel that, and this is what's going on in the atmosphere right now. I feel when people even are in your own community turn against you, and then you have people that are not in your community turn against you, you know, it's really, this is a collective experience with the human experience, everybody. What are you doing, you know?
Yeah.
So that's
everybody thinks everybody else should be exactly like them. And what a
boring
world would that be?
I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle it, really. I want the extraordinary and, you know, the underground and the, you know.
Well, the dare to be different.
Dare to be different.
Dare to be different.
Absolutely.
Did you want to talk about Wild Dandelion for a little bit, Karen, maybe, while we're starting to wrap up here? What you're thinking about? I love that quote that you, I love that.
I don't know how you guys do that. So I need to read it before, you know, I've always got to cover brewing, you know, when I'm reading.
Oh, yes. I love that. Yes.
So Wild Dandelion is a short story.
No, Wild Dandelion is a full-length novel.
Okay, good.
My short story I'm working on for the class.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
So if you just want to,
and we're going to do a book with the short stories. We keep that in mind.
Yes, we're collaborating. Everybody that's listening, all four of us are collaborating. So, do you want me to read that quote that you sent, Jan? I can read it.
Absolutely.
I don't even remember what quote, but read it.
I think it was Karen.
Read it.
Karen sent me this because I asked her, you know, how's Wild Dandelion going so far with you guys being my beta readers, and she's like, trying to find it here. Karen said, I'm loving it so far. Fun to read, hard to put down. And this is the quote from Wild Dandelion that's hopefully coming out later on this year. If I self-publish it, or maybe an agent will take it under their wing, we will see. But if an agent doesn't, I'm definitely self-publishing. So it says, the air was weighty and the sky looked like a bruise. A dangerous storm hovered, ready to drop like a bomb. That's what.
I love it. I can feel it.
Yeah.
It's not mother of pearl sky. It's a fucking bruise.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Oh, there, I think we lost Jan for a second.
Shoot, hopefully she can make it back on before we end.
Yeah,
it's
so was that something, I know bruise color, but so is that something I'm going to use that someday? You tuck that around, or did it just surface?
For me, because I'm so by the seat of the pants and I'm so disorganized, and I just tell myself I'm writing for 30 minutes. That's pretty much all I do. Writing
Okay.
for 30 minutes, phone off, music off. That's it. Because I get distracted, ADHD,
Okay.
dyslexia, I'll see something, and then I'll be like, oh, and then it'll pop into my head and I'll see a color. And then I'll be like, this would be a good place for me to put a metaphor. So I love storms, and I love how the sky
I
gets
do too.
black and
I
then
know,
it'll get
but
green.
when you said bruise, I know it because it's been raining here and it's a little yellow and it's purple. And that was just so cool to me. Just loved it.
I love metaphors because it gives intangible ideas tangibility. And so that's why I like metaphors so much. And I'm very visual with when I read, with the, like how, we're talking with Marsh and he said he doesn't see that. That's all I see
Oh,
is
isn't that
like, that's all I
interesting? I'm
see,
very visual.
and
That
I
goes
love
with your
to use,
photographic memory.
yeah, right. I have a photographic memory. I do.
Yeah.
And that's why I did well with history.
Yeah.
I did really well with history and philosophy. And I love philosophy too, because really that's what life's about, really.
Right.
I mean, you can have the morals and ethics, you can study all that, and I get it. But I really, I like just talking about life and how people experience life, and through their five senses and just through everything, and through maybe the sixth sense that I think all of us innately have, which is our souls, or whatever, and I use a lot of colors and visualizations. I use songs, I use movies. One of my favorite song lyrics is by U2, the song Cruel. And he says, he puts his lips to her lips to stop the lies. Ugh. I
Woo!
could just go on and on and on with that lyric. It's
Oh
just
my
wonderful. Isn't
gosh.
that fantastic? And that's
Chills.
what I do. I look at this lyric and I'll be like, okay, this moment I'm trying to convey, my characters are lying. They think that they're lying, and they think that somebody's cheating or somebody's holding back or not disclosing. Okay, I'm going to listen to some music that evokes that feeling. And then I pulled that lyric, and that's what I do. And then I just go off on a tangent. And people are like, I really do just make stuff up out of my head. It's ridiculous.
I do too. I do too.
Yeah, I just make it up.
Yeah.
And then I try to.
If later I have to go back and look it up and see if it's right, I will do that. Wait till later,
I have a question. So, did the story or the characters, especially in Wild Dandelion, since we're talking about that, did they evolve in ways that you did not expect them to?
The longer that I honed my craft, Different and Hunter were very much parts of me, and very much a memoir in a lot of ways of me, in there. But I think as you start to learn to hone your craft, Bo and Heather and Dylan are the main characters in Wild Dandelion. Yes, there's still pieces of me, sprinkled on everybody, but I start to separate them from myself and start to act more on what the character's going to do and what the setting's dictating and what I'm trying to convey and the feelings I'm trying to evoke. So they're taking on their own personas more. They're little birds that are leaving the nest. It's really how it's becoming for me now. I give them all, I just like to build them all the way up, and then tear them back down and build them up in their healing version of themselves. What I do, I bring them up with all this trauma, all this pain, all this neuroses, tear it down, and then I build them back up healing. Because I really think that's what people need. Mm-hmm. That's what I need.
Right.
That's what I need. So
I like that.
Thank you. Yeah. And
so where can people find your stuff if they want to find it?
Yes, thank you. People can find my stuff on Amazon, Goodreads, Barnes and Noble. I'm actually doing a book reading in June in Des Moines, Iowa at Barnes and Noble. They're wonderful. I'm also going to be at Pride in Des Moines, June 6th through the 8th, selling my stuff. And hopefully in the next month here, I have a contact. I might start teaching some writing classes, maybe just pull a bunch of people together and go, okay, create a setting. That's more of what I'm about. Create a setting. This is what you use, what you can do, and bring stuff in and see if maybe I can teach people that want to be writers that are not
That's
so
cool.
conventional, because I'm not a
Yeah.
conventional writer at all.
I like that.
You know, here's a banana. Use it in your story. Find something good. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun, you
We are.
guys.
It
Oh my
was.
Thank
It's a lot of fun.
you. That was fun.
Thanks, Val. That was very good. Thank you so much.
I'll be in touch
It
with you,
was great.
Karen.
I hope so. I can't wait to work together. We'll have
Yay.
fun too.